Welcome back, everyone, once again to a new year. I think this is the first upload of 2025, right?
Yes.
This is gonna be the first one. Yeah, brand new year, the fifth year actually,
Yes,
which is crazy to say. Screenplay Rewind. It's been going on far too long. Some
Far
would
too
say.
long.
I'm Jeff.
I'm Ron. This is the second episode since Christmas, first one we've recorded since Christmas. And first one of the year. Yeah, we had
first
one
of the year because the Muppet one was like a couple days after Christmas, right?
Yeah, it came out the Saturday after Christmas, and we recorded it
Yeah.
a week ahead of time.
Yeah, our recording schedule is a nightmare.
Well, we had an excuse this time.
Did we?
We did. We had to schedule a time to go to a movie theater.
Oh yeah, we had to schedule a date night to.
We went on a little date.
Theater. We used to go on like a lot of like discount Tuesdays to check out movies, and then it feels like the amount of movies I see just in general has like plummeted. But I watch a lot of shit on streaming nowadays instead of the theater, which makes me a little bit sad because I do love going to the theater. It's just like I feel like the last few years, it's like part of that is because of like the pandemic kind of just slowed down the business a lot in general for a few years there, like where we just didn't have as many movies coming out.
Right.
So it's like I still love going to the theater, but there's not as many things that seem to like grab my attention nowadays.
Yeah, and then it doesn't help that I've been dealing with depression issues, so I've just been doing like a lot of Subnautica and a lot of rewatching like Indiana Jones and stuff like that. I'm not really exploring anything new because that's just the way I get when I get that way.
Yeah, understandable.
Anything comfort, I tend to huddle around. So, been doing some Avengers, Lord of the Rings, Indiana Jones, that type stuff. But
can't go wrong.
Today was day one though of my doctor doubling my medication dosage. So, we'll see how this goes. I feel it this time.
Pass out in the middle of the recording.
I had an issue with the first medication, and then he switched me. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I guess I feel better. I don't feel anything like I did on the other one, though. So I don't really know if it's doing anything or not. So he had me double it. And today I was just like, ooh. Like, I fucking see sounds and hear colors.
You think that's the plot of the next Captain America? Is that what leads to Red Hulk? Because they just doubled Harrison Ford's medication. He just turns into a raging gamma monster because they doubled his medication.
Captain Zoloft.
That would actually be awesome, dude.
Oh man. Yeah, I got hit by something radioactive after doubling my medication. Got hit by lightning. I doubled my medication. I got hit by lightning.
Yeah, so
turned into the Flash.
The movie we'll be covering today, Nosferatu, an Eggers joint is actually one that will get me out to the theater. I saw this opening day, so when it's something that I go out of my way to see opening day nowadays, it's
to be clear, opening day was Christmas Day.
Yes, I was there because it's Robert fucking Eggers, and I will go see all of his shit as soon as humanly possible.
Jeff opened his window and was like, "You there, boy? What day is it?" And like, "Why, sir, it's Nosferatu Day." He's like, "Oh, I haven't missed it."
Yeah, pretty much.
Eggers did it all in one night. Of course he did.
Yeah, that's all I need for Christmas is a new fucking Robert Eggers movie. Which I'm glad this movie did pretty well at the box office because we need more. More Eggers movies? Yeah, didn't do crazy, because
it doesn't need to.
Does it? Yeah, the budget.
I'm sure it
insane.
costs money to make and stuff, but I'm sure it's probably doing well enough. I haven't looked at the numbers, but I know it'll do good in streaming. He's got a following.
Oh yeah, for sure. The budget was only $50 million, which is nothing for a modern movie of this kind of reputation.
That's cheaper than Deadpool, isn't it?
Yeah, very, very cheap to make. The box office is doing solid. Wikipedia listed as 104.8 million so far, which is, I don't know if that's worldwide too. That could just be domestic. So, but either way, they've already made a good fucking profit back on this because that's part of the thing too. Part of I hadn't really thought about it, but when you have a director like this whose movies can kind of be sold without having to spoil the entire movie, it actually makes their marketing campaign a lot cheaper because most of their trailers and stuff and marketing materials are, playing it very close to the chest.
Yeah.
They're not going out of their way to oversell the movie because like the selling point of the movie is the director and the people associated with it and his kind of background. And the way that they market the movie is by not showing you very much and like making you want to see more. So
And
they have
this movie in
that going for them.
particular, it being a remake of a classic that people are familiar with. I mean,
Yeah, I know you were avoiding pretty much all the trailers for it. I had watched, I think, the first one,
I meant to go back and
and
watch them before we recorded, but I didn't get to.
pretty much
Mainly because
like
I forgot. So,
pretty, like you never heard or saw Nosferatu in any of the trailers.
ooh.
The most that they ever showed of him was like they showed a little bit of the work with the shadows, like
Ooh.
which is
Which is
uh
exactly what the silent movie does, is the shadow work. So they're still not showing you anything you haven't seen.
exactly, yeah. So it was a legitimate reveal
Because that
like
movie's
when you
kind of a
actually hear
meme
him.
now, but it what it did playing with shadows and stuff is actually really cool. I haven't seen the original silent film, and I haven't seen. Would you say there was one in the 1970s?
Yeah, we'll talk about the '70s one too because I did go back and revisit that one. Yeah,
But
it was
like
the
it's pretty famous for what it did with shadow work and the way it played with lighting and stuff. So
yeah.
I'd actually be curious to just like put it on while folding laundry or something sometime and
I
check it out.
Yeah, it's one of those things though where it's like,
By now it's got to be like free on YouTube somewhere, right?
yeah, pretty much. It's one of those things where I can like appreciate it, but I just don't particularly enjoy watching silent movies usually, just because it especially it kind of sucks. 'Cause I tried to watch part of the original one from the '20s, and we'll talk about like why, but there's like multiple versions of it, and there's been remasters, and at that point I'm kind of like, what is the quote unquote best version to watch this? And everyone has a different opinion, so that's also kind of like a non-starter because it's like I would
Right.
like to watch because they've done it with different orchestral scores, and that's incredibly important when you have a silent movie. They've done it with different
Oof.
intertitles, which is also really important for it. So it's the Amazon Prime version that they have has like a coloration to it, which to
What?
me they're presenting it like it's a selling point, and to me that
destroys
partially
the whole point.
to me that defeats the purpose
I thought you were
of
going to say
their
instead of an orchestra, they
cinematography
did
of it.
30 Seconds to Mars or something.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, just give me
Nosferatu,
the
now it's
original.
Bruce Springsteen. Born
Just
in
give
the
me-
USA.
So it's like, just give me the original version that's not been dicked with. It's like fucking trying to watch the original Star Wars movies. They just don't fucking exist now because fucking George hid him in the George Lucas fucking hid all the DVDs in a fucking pile with the ET Atari cartridges and burned it
It's
all.
like the
I
scene
don't
from
know.
Indiana Jones when they're burning the Bible in The Last Crusade.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, we will be talking Nosferatu today, in its various incarnations. But before we start off our movie coverage, every week we have a Q&A section. So Ron, would you like to kick us off?
We have one whole comment. That's it. Muppet Christmas Carol, the ever enigmatic executive intern Bobby
Executive intern.
left.
Fancy.
If there's a sub, then I have seen it.
All right, Ron. This is in response to me asking Bobby if he had seen Crimson Tide because it seemed like it was a Bobby movie. And then his response was, if it has a sub in it, he's seen it. It's pretty much saying that Bobby is also, like me, a sucker for submarine movies because
Well, Bobby
I
is
also like
at
me some
heart
submarine movies.
Burt Gummer, and every time we see Burt Gummer, he's watching war documentaries or war films. So
Yeah, it's like you just take Burt Gummer, add a lot of anime, and you got Bobby.
He even has a graboid on the wall.
Yes.
Yeah. But that's all we had. If anyone has actually left a new rating or a review on Apple, I apologize. I tried signing in to look just before we recorded, and I they're doing something on their end, I guess. I'm just getting an error whenever I go to any interactivity pages. I can see our episodes and I can see settings, but I just get an error when I try to load that page on different browsers too.
That might just be kind of clamoring about right now because I think they just recently lost like a $90 million lawsuit, which, isn't anything for Apple, but, that's not exactly pocket change. I forget what the details of it, but I remember seeing Apple had to pay like a $90 million fine recently. It's like, whatever the fuck that was all about.
Yeah, I don't know.
But I have a follow-up question for Bobby. What is your favorite submarine movie? And drop that in the next uploads comments, and we'll talk about it at the beginning of the next episode. And also, we'll have forgotten what the the thing that spawned the question was.
When you start writing this shit down,
nah,
nah,
it's more fun to try to figure out on the fly. But yeah, with Nosferatu,
a word I still have yet to spell correctly the first time. Just putting that out there.
What is like it could be like a horror thing or just something in general. What's something that you haven't seen adapted in an incredibly long time or like remade at all that you would like to see kind of like come back to kind of the public eye?
Interesting.
Because I think I have an answer like for both of us if you wanted a second to think about it. I'm ready for a relaunch of Indiana Jones, I think.
Carl Urban, baby.
Yeah, Carl Urban would be great. There's some other actors that'd be perfect. I think it is just kind of like wasted potential if they, because to me, they should have already kind of like had multiple Indiana Jones franchises going almost like Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Indiana Jones, because if you can do anything with that character because of the way that the stories worked, they're just pretty much serials. Like I think we should have continuous new Indiana Jones stuff like we do James Bond stuff.
Yeah. That might get reinvigorated because that game seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, everyone fucking loves that game.
Yeah. So, and I believe it's Troy Baker doing the voice. I've heard he's doing really, really well.
Yeah, from what I've seen on clips and stuff, he's really, really fucking good. I mean, it's to the surprise of no one, because remember how good his Joker, Mark Hamill, was?
Yeah.
It was spot on.
Yeah, it's pretty good. You remember him reading that, was it from The Killing Joke in the Tunnel of Love?
Yeah, they had him do that final like passage.
Yeah.
The big passage from it.
I don't know. That's a good question. So anything, not just horror.
Yeah, it can be horror, but just something that you would like to see kind of reinvigorated the way that they did, because like they've had different versions of Nosferatu, but I feel like this was a pretty big kind of like marquee reimagining of something that is really iconic but kind of drifted away because they had the 70s one, but God, that's now almost 50 years in its own right.
Right.
That it's been.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like sci-fi has been on a downward turn the last several years.
Yeah, it has, because like once superhero stuff kind of took over, people stopped, using big budgets on sci-fi stuff. They just kind of shifted that budget towards making, fucking superhero stuff.
Yeah, you've got your high-end stuff all the way down to like Starship Troopers. You just used to get stuff all the time. And then we got some Star Trek movies. We got some Star Wars movies. But we haven't really gotten anything like that outside of just superhero stuff like Guardians of the Galaxy. I'd like to see something good sci-fi come back. I don't know.
Another one that has me intrigued, because I think that the initial trailer that I've seen has looked good so far, is I'm actually pretty interested in the new Wolfman, because that's something that is also.
Yeah, I'm curious. I prefer a werewolf over a wolfman, but
that movie, it looks like it's doing some interesting stuff, and I like the way that they, similar to Nosferatu, are playing it pretty coy.
Yeah.
With they're not really showing him that much. And I also like werewolves better. But if it's that good of a movie and it's just kind of like in that same vein, it's like I'll take. We get so few werewolf movies, I'll settle for Wolfman stuff. Like just to get some more werewolf-ish stuff.
Did
going
you ever
on.
watch the Benicio del Toro one?
I did not.
Really?
I
Interesting.
remember being kind of interested in it, and then I don't think it like was received well or something, and then I
Not
just
at
never got
all.
around
I
to
might be.
checking
I'm
it
the
out.
only person that likes it, and even I'm kind of like it's okay.
Kind of iffy on it.
Yeah, I like it. Um, it yeah. I don't know. It does some good stuff plot wise. It kind of homages something from the original movie that wasn't like part of the story. It's part of the way the movie was made. It kind of
Yeah.
homages something like that, but makes it part of the main plot. It's a spoiler
Mhm.
to talk about, but um, yeah, I like it. It's way too long. It's an hour and 45 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but
And it still feels super long. That's not a bad runtime,
it
like
feels
by any
super
means.
long.
That's like the first act of a Michael Bay movie now.
It's got Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt.
Yeah, good cast.
Yeah, David Schofield, and then I'm not seeing it in the top cast, but I'm pretty sure fucking Elrond was in there, wasn't he?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you.
Let's see.
Hugo Weaving.
Yeah. David Shaw. Yeah, Hugo Weaving. And why is he not in the top cast, IMDb? Fucking Elrond of Rivendell. Dude, that okay, hang on. Speaking of Lord of the Rings, before I go back to talking about the Wolfman real quick. That new Kate Blanchett movie, that like spy thriller. The fuck was that? I was kind of into that.
Oh, I'm all about it. The new Soderbergh movie.
Yeah.
With Michael Fassbender too. Like
Yeah.
I fucking love Fassbender.
I'll watch anything
Love Soderbergh.
with fucking I just said her name. Why did it leave? Gladriel.
Kate Blanchett.
Gladriel's in there, Jeff.
I like how your default is who is the person's
My brain
Lord of the Rings
is
name.
so stupid. I can remember Gladriel and Elrond, but I cannot remember their real fucking names. I hate my brain so much.
You've spent so much time watching Colbert over the years that you have just slowly shifted into Lord of the Rings fandom to the point you can't escape it. So it's just he's Elrond.
Yeah, for considering I can't separate someone from their art, I do really good at letting them disappear into a character for some reason. So I don't look at Lord of the Rings and think I'm watching Hugo Weaving. I'm like, this is Elrond, and I don't know why my brain has that disconnect, but I do. But yeah, I don't know. That movie looked really good.
Yeah, I the trailer is very. It's funny. Like I think the trailer is well made because it's not super bare bones. Like it's a very detailed trailer, but it's still kind of like skirting the edges of like actually spoiling stuff to where you still that's like a 2 minute 20-second trailer giving you a lot of information, but I still don't really feel like I know what the movie's about, and I appreciate that. So it's like it's a well executed trailer. It's where I'm interested in it, and I don't feel like the entirety of what makes it good has been spoiled for me.
Yeah. The thing that is interesting to me about that Wolfman movie coming up is the guy that is directing it. He's also got a writing credit.
Yeah, Lee Winnell.
Yeah, he did that Invisible Man movie. I didn't see it. You said it was good?
It's very good. Yeah, it's like he does a lot of interesting stuff with it.
He also directed Upgrade.
Oh yeah, Upgrade's good.
And he directed Insidious Chapter 3. And
did you ever see Upgrade?
Yeah, we did it. Didn't we do it for the show?
No, we haven't done it for the show yet.
We haven't done it for the show? I thought we did.
We had talked about potentially doing it at one point, and I think Bobby had potentially, been on
Bobby's
the verge
the reason
of picking
I watched it. Bobby was talking about it.
Yeah, we haven't covered it on the show yet though.
But yeah, he directed that, and he's done a lot of writing for several of the Insidious movies. So
yeah, he's buddies with
and Saw
James
the
Wan.
video game apparently.
Yeah, he was the original writer of the first Saw, I believe, and then I think he wrote it and then starred in it, and then James Wan was like the producer and director for it, and that kind of like jump started both of their careers. But it's been cool to see him kind of like he didn't really do much for a while because he was just kind of like chilling and making Insidious movies, but then Invisible Man hit and is very interesting, like what they do with that concept, and it seems like with Upgrade, he kind of showed he could do action.
Yeah.
Because Upgrade has a pretty hardcore action to it, for kind of low budget kind of sci-fi ish movie. So
But yeah,
I like him quite a bit.
but yeah, it seems interesting.
I like how bare bones it is. Like
Yeah.
it's very minimalistic because typically like when they do Wolfman stuff, I haven't seen the Benicio del Toro one, but it almost seems like even just modernizing it changes it so much. It seemed to be very much like a how do we get as like minimalist with the werewolf style movie as we can.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that.
That I appreciate the trailer opened up like Uncharted 2. They're just
right.
hanging off the side of the cliff in the truck.
Pretty much. Yeah, you don't even know that you're watching a fucking Wolfman movie.
Yeah.
Trailer at first, which is cool. That could be anything.
I was suspecting by the end of the trailer, I was like, is this that Wolfman movie? And then Wolfman popped up on the screen right when I had that thought.
Yeah.
So
it's a cool trailer.
yeah,
I liked it.
It looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm into
excited.
it. When's that?
Yeah.
I just had the IMDb open for it. When's that supposed to come out? It's soon,
I think
isn't
Wolfman
it?
comes out like in a couple of weeks.
I was gonna say, I think it's soon. God,
Wolfman
I hate you, IMDb.
comes out January 17th, so next Friday for us right now. Also, the runtime for it, hour 43 minutes. So that's good. It can be very, very quickly paced instead of. I get pretty much anytime I see a horror movie that's 2.5 hours long that's not made by like Ari Aster or Robert Eggers, I'm immediately concerned.
That's the exact runtime of the Benicio del Toro one.
Hour 43.
Hour 43. It's the exact runtime.
Nice. That's funny.
That's interesting.
All right. Any other kind of like things that you could think of real quick? That you'd like to see kind of come back, or we like touched on some stuff we've kind of been wanting for a while.
I kind of miss mechs. I thought we were gonna get a resurgence there for a little bit. We had that Jennifer Lopez movie. We had a couple Pacific Rim movies.
I miss Pacific Rim. I wish Pacific Rim had been able to continue on and have more movies,
or at least inspire something else. But
yeah,
I miss like just sci-fi for the sake of sci-fi, mainly.
It'll come back. I think we're, especially if like the next batch of Avengers movies doesn't go over as well as they would like. I think we're getting very close to superhero stuff bottoming out, and then you're gonna see a shift to something else that takes over the forefront, and it's just a matter of time before sci-fi is the kind of like cream of the crop again, I think.
Right.
Especially when you have like, all it takes is like Nolan or somebody like that, or like Spielberg, to have another big sci-fi tentpole thing come out to kind of like get people back into the kind of groove of it.
Yeah. Yeah, horror's had a renaissance lately.
Yeah.
We're kind of in the age of
sure.
the superhero movie and horror.
Yeah.
Because people are doing a lot of really creative things in horror because it's easy to get funded for horror. You can do a lot of horror stuff on the cheap.
And there's, like A24 and, production studios like that are specifically going out of their way to like, we'll give you a shot if you've got a good idea.
Yeah.
All you need is a good idea. You don't need an IP. You don't need necessarily to be a name. You can become a name, if you're like an Eggers or an Ari Aster, and then you come up with something that is as good as like Hereditary or The Lighthouse. But they didn't need to, like Eggers didn't need to be a name in order to get The Witch made. It was just a good fucking script.
Yeah.
With great actors, and that's all you need. Man. This is watching Nosferatu again has me like, I'm gonna watch The Lighthouse within the next 2 days. I have to watch it again. You're fond of me, lobster.
I know you're fond of me, lobster. Monkey pump.
If I had a steak.
And on that note,
all right, yeah, let's get back into it. Okay, yeah, so spoilers for Nosferatu, and specifically, even if you've seen the original one or the 70s one, the Eggers one, while it is a very faithful adaptation as far as like this is continuing the 1922 character assortment, as far as like like him actually being called Orlok instead of like he's been like, just real quick, like I find the 70s version really stupid.
I'm really curious. The more you talk about it, the more I want.
Now there are a few scenes that are like legitimately like fucking cool and well done in that movie, but the first thing that just had me scratching my head is the 1979 version from Werner Herzog is called Nosferatu the Vampire. That's the fucking title of the movie. And as soon as they called him Harker and they called Nosferatu Dracula, I was like, you're not really making Nosferatu at that point. And like what's really silly is he's not even like, as far as the makeup for Nosferatu, it's not like he's a hybrid between traditional Dracula and Nosferatu. He's like a 70s version of the silent film Nosferatu, but he's called Dracula.
Interesting.
And it's just really silly to me because, like, to me, like, what makes them different is the kind of like it's in the details. Like once you start calling him Dracula and he acts like Nosferatu, then there's a disconnect to me because those are different things in my mind.
Right.
Like Nosferatu is, even though it was a fucking like a copyright infringement, he is nothing like Dracula. And I mean, it could be kind of like controversial because Dracula is more popular. I like the character Nosferatu better than I like Dracula because I think he's more interesting in that he's just kind of like, he's just a monster.
Yeah.
Like there's a bit of depth to him as far as like how much of, especially in the Eggers version, like there's a lot of things that they talk about how like he is like like an actual force of nature almost. Like he calls himself like, I am an appetite. You know, like there's weird kind of things going on with that. That's not just he's Dracula, he's the sexy vampire lord, like that's Dracula to me. And I know it probably wasn't like how was it like originally intended. It's just kind of like what happened with vampire movies throughout the decades. But
that's what it became. The Bram Stoker Dracula is not necessarily that way either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you are pivoting so far in the direction of he's Nosferatu, why are you fucking calling him Dracula?
I don't know. It makes no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. And that movie has like,
you got peanut butter in my peanut butter.
that movie has like a backing too. Like it has a cult following behind it, but I just didn't get it. There's
apparently
not bad.
nowhere that you can't watch this movie. So I'm probably gonna check this movie out just for the fuck of it.
Yeah, you should check it out. I also, I promise we'll get to the actual like new Nosferatu here soon, but like one thing that really fucking bugged me, especially watching it after the Eggers version, fucking Harker walks up to the Count's fucking castle and he sees him dressed up like he just walked out of a fucking Spirit Halloween and he doesn't react like he's scared at all. He's just chilling. Like, he's just talking to and now like if
I was reacting the way Nicholas Hoult was to things.
Right? That's like Nicholas Hoult is reacting. Now granted, the one in the new movie is is a lot more of a presence and is more intimidating. But still, he's obviously a fucking creature of the night, and the Harker actor is just like talking to him like he's checking out at fucking Walgreens, man. And I'm just like, what is this? It's very weird.
He's just sitting there talking to him, and Nosferatu is sitting there drying a glass behind a bar.
Nosferatu looks like at any point he will jump across the table and murder him, and the Harker actor is just like he doesn't even notice. Now, if like the point of it was like they kind of like fill in parts of that plot hole at moments with the new one because they talk about how like he's kind of like it puts like even being around him puts you into a dream state, so you're not actually like acting fully like present in the moment. Like sometimes you're just kind of like walking around like you're almost like you're daydreaming. that's not presented in the 70s one at all. So he just looks like he's just prancing around having a jolly old normal time as he's staring at Nosferatu across the table.
So,
and even after he's about, like, you know, like the scene where he cuts his thumb,
yeah,
at the dinner table thing, that happens, and Nosferatu looks at him like Pattinson looking at the steak, and he fucking
I'm fond
gets
of your
scared.
lobster.
He gets scared for a second, and then it's just fine, and he just but they don't like hammer home the fact that he's under like a trance at all. So he never acts scared, and it's fucking weird, and like the direction of it is just fucking weird. But yeah, you should watch it and let me know your take on it, because I found the 70s one really fucking weird and like oddly directed and just a little bit all over the place.
What's interesting is I was reading a thing that was comparing Nosferatu with Bram Stoker's Dracula, and it was on a Wikipedia page, and it was talking about how Dracula's power lies in like basically like mesmerism and animal magnetism. Like he can put you in a trance and make you like come to him and stuff. It was talking about how Nosferatu, it went into this whole thing about how Nosferatu is like a dark sorcerer before he died. So
really,
when he comes
that's
back to life, he has all these crazy like shadow powers and stuff that he can do because of the type of magic he practiced before he even died. And I was like, I missed this part of the movie.
Yeah, I think with the new one, they specifically are keeping him
mysterious.
Like they're keeping him very mysterious to where like you don't know like the full confines of like what he can do.
Yeah.
And like the way that he talks about himself, like he calls himself like I'm an appetite. The thing that the new movie I think adds like a really interesting element to it is like the demonic possession angle, because like the new Nosferatu is like just as much like a demonic possession movie as something like The Exorcism of like Emily Rose. Like there's a huge chunk of the movie is dedicated, and I think it was smart, because the really strange thing too about the original movie and with like the 70s version is like the story ending with the wife making the sacrifice is always present, but she was never the main character, even though like the whole like fulcrum of the movie balances on her decisions at the end of being the hero. So like the demonic possession angle, kind of like pivoting it to make it to where she's the main character from the beginning because she's the one with the history with them, adds like a more interesting element than like it comes out of left field when all of a sudden, without having the background with her, Nosferatu is just like suddenly obsessed with the lady he's never met before until the last like 20 minutes of the fucking movie. Very weird. Now, granted, I'm not specifically complaining about the silent film because there's only so much you can do back then, especially like with they were taking the Dracula like movie and the Dracula story and kind of like fudging the names and shit to try to not be sued, even though they ended up getting sued regardless. And it's a 100-year-old fucking silent film, so I'm not, shit talking that one as much, but it is incredibly bizarre in most Nosferatu things about how like the story hinges on the wife, but then she's not even usually like the main character until the new one.
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Put a woman into a movie? I mean, you can't film a woman. No one will buy a ticket.
That's weird too about the 70s one. Is like that he adds more scenes for her, and she is like easily
still
like
not the star.
She's like the main character while also not being the main character. So it's a weird, bizarre fucking movie.
What I find even more interesting about that, you keep calling it the 70s one. It's 1979. We're post-Alien. We're heading into Terminator territory. Like, women being the main characters of movies and being the heroes was a thing at this point.
Yeah.
Like, that's a weird placement for them to be like, she's a chick, bro. What do you want? Like, that's a really weird take.
Like, it's
for that period of filmmaking.
Like, it is better because she has
Princess
more.
Leia was 2 years before this, and Aliens the same year, and we're like, what, 2 years out from Terminator, something like that?
Now, granted, it was like the 70s one, to be fair, was like
Is this the same year as Raiders? So we got Marion in there too.
I think wasn't Raiders in like the early
80s,
like 81,
81 I want to say.
But yeah, to be fair to that one, like it wasn't like a Hollywood joint. It was, I think
Right.
it was made within Germany. Like I think they even had like they made an English speaking version of it, and they made a where they're speaking German version of it.
Mhm. Right.
But it was just weird because like it's like baby steps into like realizing like, the lady who makes the sacrifice and is the hero of the movie technically should also be the main character of the movie. Not the fucking idiot who's just staring at fucking Nosferatu. It's like, this is fine. This is fine. Yeah, so you should go check that out because I'd like to hear your thoughts on it because I was just like fucking
You're just making me more excited for it.
It's gonna be Ron's favorite horror movie of all time now because of how much I've undersold this fucking movie.
No, you're overselling it. Like, please stop.
I'm overselling it.
Yeah, please stop. I'm all about this.
You're welcome. But yeah, let's get back into the specifics more, more so with the new one. Okay, so obviously we've talked ad nauseum, but Robert Eggers is our writer and director here. As far as the new movie, obviously they still have like the existing credits for like this might have been like the first thing that actually flat out said, this is Nosferatu and this is Dracula.
Yeah.
At the same time, because like the credits like specifically call out like Bram Stoker with the writing credits and stuff. Yeah. So like their official writing credits were Robert Eggers for the screenplay, Bram Stoker for the novel Dracula, and then Henrik Galeen for the screenplay Nosferatu. So they kind of like covered all their bases.
Please don't sue us.
Yeah, so the original kind of like background for the 1922 version, as far as the lawsuits I had mentioned, was so it was the novel came out in 1897, the original Bram Stoker's Dracula. This was with the original German intertitles. They actually acknowledged Dracula as the source. However, even with Dracula being like noted as the source, because they didn't actually like get copyright for it, Stoker's widow Florence Balcombe sued them over the adaptation's copyright violation, and a court ruled that all the copies of the film had to be destroyed.
Jesus.
So several prints of Nosferatu survived, and the film came to be regarded as an influential masterpiece of cinema and the horror genre. So isn't that wild that like this unsanctioned Dracula adaptation is one of the most like iconic horror movies ever made, and almost like no longer saw the light of day because they ordered the copies destroyed. Like really crazy.
Which I'm sure contributes to its notoriety, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I'm absolutely positive that no matter how good or bad that is, it's got a mystique about it now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously they renamed Dracula to Count Orlok. He is called Orlok again in the Eggers version. Finally, after 100 fucking years.
Dr. Acula.
Dr. Acula. Yeah. So it was like it was originally made in Germany. Film historian David Kallett states in his commentary track that since the film was a low-budget film made by Germans for German audiences, setting it in Germany with German named characters makes the story more tangible and immediate for German-speaking viewers. So a lot of their things to avoid copyright were also to make it more suitable for the German audiences that were going to see it. And that is the backdrop for the new movie. Is it's set in 1830s Germany.
Mm-hmm.
They do the kind of thing like you'll see in like a lot of movies where they're technically they should all be speaking German, but they just kind of like let them use their British accents pretty much
because Americans can't tell.
Because Americans are fucking stupid and they don't talk like they're from fucking Texas, so it's all the same. It doesn't matter. It's they got their British accent.
They don't sound like Josh Brolin.
Yeah. So our kind of backdrop for it said in like 18. What is the fucking city? It's like Visber. It's like it looks like Wisborg, but it's like because of the pronunciation, it's like Visber, I think is what they call it.
If I'm ever in a movie, I want to be credited as vomiting sailor.
Vomiting Sailor.
I
No, we gotta make a punk rock band called Vomiting Sailor.
Oh man.
All right, so we're gonna transition over to the cast now. So we kind of touched on the writing and everything. Oh, but by the way, I really like Nosferatu, but I'm not disappointed in it. What I am disappointed in is what I love most about Robert Eggers is his original stuff, because he's able to just kind of like go all out and be himself. And I like how unpredictable The Lighthouse and The Witch are, because they're not established properties. And you can tell with his work on Nosferatu, he said, in interviews and stuff, that like Nosferatu, the original silent film, is what made him want to be a director, because of how striking
I was gonna say
the visuals
you could
were.
tell a lot of
And
love went into this movie.
absolutely. And you can tell there is a lot of DNA in that 1920 silent film from Nosferatu in his other work.
Lighthouse,
Like
maybe.
just with The Lighthouse, like the filming techniques, what he likes to do with shadows in general, both obviously in The Lighthouse with it being in black and white and stuff, but also like with the Witch, and just like what he does with his visuals, you can tell this was a huge influence on him. So while he is adding his own flavors to it and everything, he is not going to go as crazy with this as he would with something like The Lighthouse. So while I genuinely really, really like Nosferatu, to me, and I think I told you like before we went and saw the movie, like to me, the new Nosferatu is a great movie, but is not like an instant classic. Like The Witch and The Lighthouse are two of my favorite horror movies, just period.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't quite reach that. So if I ever sound like I'm disappointed in it, I'm only disappointed in it. It's like this is like the Dark Souls 2 of the Robert Eggers movies, where it's like,
hang on, let me get my bingo card out.
This is only lacking by comparison to two of the best horror movies made in the last like 50 fucking years. That's kind of like my thing on it.
Yeah, well, you can tell that Robert Eggers hit a position where he could pay his homage to one of his favorite movies in the best way he knows how as a director and filmmaker. And with all the shit surrounding this movie, right, with the prince being destroyed, and it's kind of a lost classic, except for the select few that have seen it or know the story around it and everything. This was a passion project for him, as opposed to a creative and exploration thing. Yeah. It wasn't an experimental thing. He's paying homage to his roots by making the version of this movie. If you and I watch the original film, I'm sure that this movie he made is what he sees when he watches the original film, right?
For sure.
It's like when we look at like a remaster or a remake of like a PlayStation 2 game. It's like, yeah, this is how I remember this game looking when it came out on the PlayStation 2, when it looks absolutely nothing like that.
He also saw this, like, I think when he was like really young, so this has been kind of brewing in the back of his mind for decades, you know, like, so I totally agree.
So his career kind of hit a little bit of a point where he could be like, I'm doing Nosferatu next, and people are just like, okay.
Yeah, he had talked about in a recent interview, this was originally supposed to be his second movie, and he stated how he was so glad that it didn't work out that way, because I like how he's able to approach this as a director trying to kind of like pay homage and then pay respects to this iconic classic, while also adding his own kind of like specificity to it from what makes like Eggers such a cool filmmaker. But this isn't him, like The Lighthouse is him like establishing himself as a filmmaker. This is him establishing himself as a director, adapting this beloved work and like having it be like a legitimate adaptation, as far as like this isn't just a film by him. This is like him showing his kind of take on it, if that makes sense.
Hey, if nothing else, he made vampires scary again.
Yeah, that is something to behold in its own right, because like, when's the last time you've been scared by a vampire in a movie?
Long time.
Can't even remember.
I can't either.
It's crazy.
What for real
such
quick?
Like
okay.
Oh no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick, what is your favorite like version of a vampire from any form of media.
I after this movie, I think this might be my favorite version because he is ethereal and he's interesting. He's almost more of, like we said before, he's like almost, I know it's cliche to mention it like that, but he's almost more of like a force of nature instead of just like a slick kind of Dracula kind of cliche.
Right.
Just down to the way, I love the way he changed the way the bites work. Because like when Nosferatu, the new movie, bites somebody, it's almost like he's a leech.
Yeah.
And it's
That
really cool because like
sound. Oh my god, that sound.
The sound is brutal, and it's always like when it happens, it sounds like, you know, like someone just got like bitten by like a fucking crocodile, dude. Like it's brutal. And I like that because the traditional way that they do like their fangs and stuff is it can be a little bit cheesy because even if you get bit by like the traditional vampire, it would suck, you know. But when you get bit by the new Nosferatu, it is devastating. And I like that he's more of a creature as opposed to like a suave kind of. I don't know. Does that make any sense? Like,
yeah,
you know
no,
what I'm
I
saying?
got you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's like yours?
So mine is kind of a cross between Bram Stoker's Dracula and the Nosferatu, from a book called The Black Goat Motorcycle Club, where he is that kind of suave, slick, educated man, but he is also a force of nature. Like, he's described in the book as like emanating darkness. Like, it's just dark wherever he is. It seems like he's absorbing all the light out of the room. And while he's like an attractive man and stuff, you can't look at him. Like, anytime you try to look at him, you get goosebumps and the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Like, there's something awful about him that you avert your eyes and you look away from him. And he's just a fairly attractive, normal looking guy that talks very educated. There's no reason why you should feel this way talking to him, but there's just something about him that is unnatural that you can't stand to be in his presence.
Yeah, it's like you can't help but notice like the otherworldliness.
Yeah.
That's a cool pull. I hadn't thought about that in a while. That version from that book, but yeah, this is a really
he's the
really strong version of it.
Yeah, Jason Murphy kind of merged those two aspects about those characters, and like there's a scene where he's just been released and he's like sitting in the corner of like a room, and it talks about like how all the lights are on in the room but you can't see anything in the room, and he's just sitting in the corner at the center of the darkness. It's because he just absorbs light. He just emanates, like, exudes darkness.
Yeah, he's like a walking like black hole of like just evil.
He's Manus, just emanating the dark soul.
Yeah.
I always really like that because it's a good cross of like the whole point of Dracula is that he can lure you in, right? He's more akin to like the way Satan actually works in the Bible. He's not a monster. He's beautiful. He's smart. You want to be around him. You want to talk to him. And he ends up like tricking you and stealing your soul, right? Like that's why in church they say sin is so appealing because Lucifer himself is a beautiful man. And he's not like all monstrous and gangly and stuff. And that's supposed to be the whole thing between Dracula is that little bit of a parallel. But dude, this version of Nosferatu, like, holy shit, man.
Like, okay. The best scene in the entire movie is the lead up to him getting into the castle. Because just real quick, like that crossroads scene is the single most like
out.
It's the single most gorgeous shot I've ever seen, and yeah, it is the most Bloodborne thing. Like they might make that Bloodborne show / movie / whatever the fuck they've been talking about, but whatever happens, even if it has the Bloodborne name on it, we've seen the most Bloodborne scene we'll ever see in a movie or TV show. Because oh my god, dude. But just like taking it outside like Not talking about like the you know like the carriage without the driver and shit like that. Just that scene of the crossroads is so fucking gorgeously lit.
Yeah.
Like I was watching that for the first time when I saw it on Christmas Day, and I was flabbergasted at how fucking gorgeous that shot was, because it's so
It
fucking
actually reminded me of something.
What did it remind you of?
When you first see it, when he's walking down the street, before you see the crossroad, when he's walking towards the camera at a distance, it's just that long, dark road with all the trees kind of making a canopy over the road, backlit by the moon and stuff. It is very reminiscent of in Batman 89 when the Batmobile is charging down the street with all the leaves billowing up around it and behind it. That scene and how gorgeously lit that is and how it's filmed and the sound of the car and the design of the Batmobile as it goes down that street, is that entire scene is responsible for why that is my favorite Batmobile. Like, seeing that car in motion in that scene, coming at the screen at a distance down the street like that and all the leaves billowing up behind it and stuff, it's so gorgeous. And then they cut to it. It's almost the same angle that he's walking at the screen, and it looks like the same goddamn road. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm home.
You know what's interesting too is the scene when they kind of like flip around to, you know, like to show the carriage coming in, and then they flip back to Hutter at the crossroads. Like the lighting on it, like a lot of it is like just from like the presence of snow.
Yeah.
And a lot of the lighting is just this kind of like ethereal gray kind of like puffs of like it's like from the snow and everything, but it's almost like what it made me think of is like coincidentally, like you were talking about like the old Batman cartoon, or sorry, like you know, like classic kind of late 80s early 90s Batman. Like if you think of like with the cartoon, how like they did the artwork as far as they started with black paper, and then they built on top of it. The absence of lighting outside of it just being like ethereal in the background and with the snow and everything, it almost makes me think of it's like a real life representation of starting with the darkness and then like stockpiling on top of it, as far as instead of doing the opposite. It's just like it's literally stunning.
It's
just like
really interesting because it's in color and you're seeing color, but it feels black and white. And it's the same. It's a trick that you see in black and white film, right? With the lighting in the back and stuff. Mm-hmm. It's very much an homage to the way black and white films were shot. But the whole thing is in color, and your brain is seeing color, but you're also seeing the movie in black and white. It is really a strange effect, but I mean that like the best possible way, right? Like non-derogatory. It's a really creative way to use light in a color film because it's not relying on the color, but the shot doesn't work without the color either.
Yeah, it also
it's
works
hard to explain what you're looking at.
Once you see it, like it speaks for itself in just how like you feel like you're entering a trance, just like he's about to. You know, like when he enters the carriage, he is being levitated into the carriage. You know?
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't matter, but it's like whether he's physically being levitated or whether that's how he feels. Like it gets the point across, right? Like if that's how he feels, then that's what's happening is from his perspective, right?
How and we've been talking a lot about the visuals, but when they open the carriage door with no sound at all,
oh dude,
is such a chilling effect, dude. Like it's so fucking good. Like that scene, it just sells like the entire movie for me. Like if all I watched of the movie was that 5-minute segment, I'd be like, it's movie of the year. It's all I need to see.
When that moment happened, I just wanted him to pull the face mask up and get his saw cleaver out. Like that was all I wanted.
He also has like a Bloodborne as fuck outfit, because he has like that 1800s like top cloak, where it's like the top half of it is hanging, and it's
you can just see him doing the Eileen gesture to like knock the blood off of it.
God damn, dude, just give me dude.
Come on, Eileen.
Just give me Give me a fucking Bloodborne miniseries. If you give me a Bloodborne miniseries on HBO, and you had like the Chernobyl Last of Us guy like helping write it with Eggers doing the visuals and stuff, could you fucking imagine? You could have Willem Dafoe be Mikolash, just bring all of his boys back.
Dude, there's a very Mikolash moment in this movie,
yes,
too.
there is.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
All I know is I still want Ralph Ineson as Papa G, I think.
Oh, to answer your question a little bit about like thinking back to like some of our favorite versions of vampires, you know, like not necessarily like a specific way the vampires.
Leslie Nielsen.
Did you ever see Daybreakers?
Yes.
I like the way the vampires act in Daybreakers a lot.
Dude, Sam Neill, right? That's the same one?
Yeah, you're talking about Ethan Hawke, Willem Dafoe, and Sam Neill.
Dude.
Like, yes, please.
Okay. You're the only other person I've ever talked to that likes that movie. Everybody hates that movie for some reason.
Just the way that they've had to kind of like figure out their society, like with the cars.
I was just saying the windshield on the cars and stuff.
That's the kind of like it's almost like science fiction lens to like figuring out how vampire society works. I found that movie really cool and really interesting.
The idea that Ethan Hawke comes home, pulls out a bottle, like a wine bottle, but it's blood, and just pours himself a glass after a long day at work, and sits down on the couch sipping his blood. Like,
yeah,
it's
I gotta
so
have
good
that on the podcast. But yeah, one of us has to pick that soon because I need an excuse to watch that again because I really liked it back in the day. I just haven't seen it since it came
and Willem
out.
Dafoe's a really interesting character in that movie.
I'm excited to watch it again because it's been now 15 years since it came out. So like I remember kind of like bits and pieces, but the kind of plot has been lost on me over time. So I'm excited to check it out again eventually. Once one of us picks it because like underrated as fuck.
It's really underrated. I don't get people's like dislike of that movie at all.
Yeah, I agree. So kind of transitioning back to the cast,
which we need to start.
Let's talk more specifically about like with the way that they do Nosferatu, the way they do Orlok here is when he walks into his castle and you first start seeing like the way they're going to present Nosferatu for pretty much the first like 2/3 of the movie before they really start kind of just showing him. I like the way that you can see him, but the way he's shown out of focus is almost like, you know, like when you're first like waking up in the morning or you get like woken up in the middle of the night and it's like you're awake, but it's like you can't focus your eyes right, where you're looking at something but you can't fully focus on it. That's the way they kind of like present him.
Yeah.
And the entire time, dude, like Bill Skarsgård did he said like hundreds of recordings to get the emphasis of like the proximity effect of his voice, and that's also amplified both like with the way they recorded it and like with the mix, because like it's like the devil himself is speaking into your soul, dude, every time he talks. It's crazy.
I like the way they just do his demeanor too. Like weird things happen around him at all times, like when he's following him up the stairs, all of a sudden he's just not there. He's like on the other side of the room and stuff. Like you never see him, you never hear him. It's just like, was he there? Like, the first few times you see it, you're like, was that there or was it not? But like they keep doing it so you know he's obviously moving in a way. But it's really interesting the way they do it, because they do it without showing it. But like if he's built to prey on humankind, you wouldn't see him coming or leaving, right?
Exactly. There's a moment when he's had Nicholas Hoult sit down at the table, and all of a sudden he's like doing something several feet off to the left, and in like a split second is all of a sudden on the opposite side of the table, and it's really subtle. But they have Hutter kind of react to it like, what the fuck just happened? Because he's all of a sudden like impossibly across the room, and it's not, they don't really draw attention to it. You
don't know what's going on yet, so it's like, is this part of the trance? Is this happening? Is it both?
Super cool.
Like because again, even if it's not real, the way Hutter is experiencing it makes it real, right? It's real to Hutter, so it doesn't really matter. Now we find out as the movie goes on that Orlok is really doing this shit. But at first, your first encounter with him, with Hutter, you're just left asking the same questions Hutter is, basically. Like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, and did you have to even for people that like don't really like this movie, you have to at least respect like some of the links that Skarsgård went to change his voice for this. He had worked with an opera singer from Iceland, basically, who had told him that like the way that you have to project your voice in order
Greenland
to
first, and then you're next, Iceland.
I found this was like an interesting tidbit, but the singer told him that he needs to place his voice out of his forehead when you are like delivering your lines. That is the way you are like mentally projecting it to kind of like have your voice become like otherworldly, because you know like how opera singers are like that, where it sounds like their voice is coming from everywhere, even though it's technically just the way that they're singing is like in a very unnatural way too. Like I think the opera angle is interesting for this. But he had to do a warm up for his voice for 20 minutes and then do vocal exercises in between takes. He did Mongolian throat singing
Giggity.
in order to have his vocal cords sound more deep. It's wild.
No wonder
like,
he's wheezing throughout the whole movie.
And yeah, it all adds together just like this fucking weird effect, both with his accent that he's doing, with the way they recorded it, and with the way that he's placed in the mix. Like it's crazy cool the way that he is just like a fucking presence. Like, and I think there's like an ASMR aspect to it as well. You know, like where like certain versions of ASMR can like technically make like your skin crawl. You know, because they're just hitting like those frequencies that are unnatural.
He's got a rhythm to the way he talks too.
Yeah, it's all really cool. Like the way it all kind of merges together. I really like his performance, and it's interesting too. Like
I had no idea this was Bill Skarsgård.
Yeah, everyone. It's so funny how everyone like initially would hire him to be in horror movies because he just has a very specific look to him that makes him look like, you know, like this guy could be Pennywise. But the way that he's in Nosferatu, he's not recognizable from his look or his voice at all. Which is it's really cool.
Or his silhouette or the way he moves, nothing. Bill Skarsgård died and was revived.
Yeah, that's also cool too. Like I like how he talks about how Ellen kind of like brought him back to life. He's a fucking half decomposed corpse in this. Like he has open like wounds all over his back that are just fucking haunting as hell. Where he is half like literally like they joke about it early on in the movie. I think his like Renfield type guy jokes about how he's got like 1 foot in the grave. Like no, he's a corpse, dude.
Yeah,
like he's and even after he's like
he said so to speak, 1 foot in the grave, so to speak.
Yeah, usually like. Didn't you say like in the Stoker version, like once he's feeding, he becomes like himself again? Like he kind of like loses the corpse form.
Do you remember in the second Blade movie, the really old ancient vampire?
Yeah, that's kind of the trope, right? Is like once they feed more and more, they become more and more themselves.
Yeah, that's what Gary Oldman looks like at the beginning of that movie. But then after the ship arrives, after the ship crashes because there's no one on board, everybody's gone.
Yeah.
It just looks like Gary Oldman with circular glasses and a hat. So he de-ages and gets, at that point, he's powerful enough to walk in the sun. Sunlight doesn't bother him. It weakens him, but he still has his powers and stuff.
I think it's so fucking cool that he just doesn't, he doesn't correct himself, even though like by all means. Because
it's
of how
not glamorous being a vampire in this.
Exactly. By we don't know the full extent of his powers, but he seems to just have like unlimited fucking power. You would think if he wanted to, he could probably like fix himself, or at least fix the way he present it. Like it would be like an illusion because of what he can do. He could make people see him differently. But I like the idea that like he's a corpse. But he looks down on people to such an extent he doesn't even bother to change the way he's presented in their mind,
right?
Because he doesn't view you as being worth the efforts.
Yeah, and In this, it's more demonic than anything. Like it's got a more religious bent to it, where he is of hell, he is of Satan, all of that. More like
But
some
it's
of the
never
more traditional
confirmed too,
stuff.
because a lot of it is just Willem Dafoe kind of like looking back on legends he's heard of. Like he calls them, like a demon, and all this like these different kind of like possible explanations. But like it's not 100% because the way that he describes himself is never
Yeah,
100%. He's just kind of like,
he's basically kind of summoned through like a form of witchcraft, though, which is the way it works in a lot of like classic vampire stories.
yeah,
Um,
because this movie is just as much like demonic possession movie as it is a vampire movie. It's got some like cool kind of like mixing of genres to it, because most vampire movies don't go as far into the realm of demonic possession as this does, like with multiple scenes that are pretty much like The Exorcist
yeah.
in this.
It also
um
leans into he hates what he is. He despises
mhm.
what he is, and
He just can't help himself.
Ellen is the only one that can set him free because she summoned him. And that is also a Dracula trope. Dracula, even in the book we talked about, the Black Goat Motorcycle Club, he hates what he is and he hates what he does. Like he hates the fact that he feeds on blood, and he doesn't. In that book, there's a scene where she sees him feeding, and he gets angry that she sees him, and he's like weeping
Mhm.
as he does it. That's a Dracula trope also. And in this, he's not weeping or anything. He's taking a pleasure in it, but he hates that aspect of himself, and he hates that he exists.
Yeah, it's an interesting take in that,
Because he
like,
can never, it's more like Pirates of the Caribbean in that he can never be sated. It doesn't matter how much he feeds. He will always have a thirst that he just cannot, no matter how much blood he drinks, it's never enough.
yeah, uh I like pretty much every angle they take to.
Which, harkens back to the I am an appetite.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great quote. I don't know if that was from one of the previous versions, but wherever that originated, it's a
It's a
great
really good
quote.
line. And a really
Great
good
line.
description of this vampire.
Yeah. Lily Rose Depp plays Ellen Hutter.
What's your take on her?
I hadn't really seen her in much
I'd
until
seen her
this.
in Yoga Hosers, I think, and that was about it.
Yeah, because she's buddies with Kevin Smith and his daughter.
Yeah.
I believe. I think she's pretty good in this. Most of it when she's present is just kind of like her kind of like freaking out. Like
Yeah.
they
I've been trying to decide how much is her fault, like between her and how much in the way she's written. Like, she's not Temple of Doom or anything, but um, so this is gonna sound a lot meaner than I mean it, but she's definitely the weakest part of this movie for me as far as the acting goes. I still think she does pretty good. I just think she stands out against Nicholas Hoult and Bill Skarsgård, and dare I even say it, Aaron Taylor Johnson. Like,
Aaron Taylor Johnson's fucking good in this
he's
movie.
acting his fucking ass off.
Aaron
in this
Taylor
movie.
Johnson, like this is easily the best I've ever seen him. He's fantastic in this. I think Lily Rose Depp is actually good for what she's being asked to do, because like everything that she's doing to me is on the page.
Yeah.
So I would say that would almost be more of like an issue with like her characterization on the page, instead of like, because like what is she supposed to do when he's telling her you're possessed, you're gonna go crazy? Because that's pretty much all she does.
Right.
Is you're crazy, she's like sleep deprived. She's been haunted by this dude, for years. So like one thing that I would say is like a criticism for me, and one thing that I like better about specifically The Lighthouse, and I think even like with The Witch, is like until Willem Dafoe steps on the stage, like there isn't a joke pretty much in the entire first hour and a half of the movie.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of that kind of like dourness and bleakness falls like unfortunately on like Lily Rose Depp's shoulders, of her having to like carry the movie when she's barely been in anything. You know, like it's a big jump to go from Yoga Hosers to you're carrying the Eggers movie. You know, so I personally think she's doing the best she can.
I don't know. Like, it seems about the same level to me.
It's about the same.
It's about the same. I mean, come on. Sure, there's no Bratzies, but
I forgot about the goddamn Bratzies. That's so good.
Oh, the Bratzies.
It's so dumb, but it's so good.
So dumb, but
so
good.
Yeah, but yeah, I do think obvious, but it's just like, of course she's not as good as Nicholas Hoult and Skarsgård and like Defoe and people like that, because these people are amazing. This role was originally going to be Anya Taylor-Joy, but I think she had like a scheduling conflict and had to like drop out.
So and that makes a lot of sense. I can see Anya Taylor-Joy doing this role easily. So that casting makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah. So I that's also potentially part of it. Is you can tell, especially there's an interview that Eggers had a few days ago that came out on YouTube with where he's sitting down with Willem Dafoe, and they're just kind of shooting the shit about the movie and the Lighthouse and like the stuff they've worked on together previously. And specifically with the way he talks about how he goes about writing his characters, he seems to really take into account who he's writing for. And I think you can tell with like with the way the Lighthouse is presented, the way like he wrote for Ralph Ineson in The Witch, for instance.
Right.
When he's sitting down to write, he specifically has like an actor in mind and is writing around
Ralph
the way
Ineson, broken ribs. Underline broken twice.
Goat is actually possessed by the devil in real life.
Goat is goat.
But you get what I'm saying about how like I feel like he wrote this for Anya Taylor-Joy.
That may be what I'm picking up on, if that's true, if you're right, because she stands out to me in this movie, not necessarily in a great way. But like I said, it sounds meaner than I mean it, right? Like she's doing a really good job. It's just compared with everyone else. I mean, it's not necessarily, not everyone in here you would consider A-list, but everyone in here is doing a fucking great job and they're cast very well. And she stands out among them in not the best way. Willem Dafoe
is awesome.
Aaron Taylor Johnson, how is he holding his own in scenes with Willem Dafoe?
Oh, not just Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe and Ralph fucking Ineson. Because they're a trio in several scenes. And
I didn't even know it was Aaron Taylor Johnson until the credits at the end of the movie.
Isn't that he's so fucking good in this?
I just watched Age of Ultron a few days before we went to see this movie.
I saw something else with Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Godzilla?
A few. Did you ever watch the Oscar-winning Kraven the Hunter? No. Isn't that a crazy circuit to be on? By the way, at the same time you're advertising Kraven the Hunter as you are Nosferatu, where you're having like an Oscar supporting actor nomination caliber performance at the same time Kraven the Hunter's happening.
My God.
No, the movie Nocturnal Animals. You ever heard of that?
No.
It was like this really fucking weird kind of Oscar bait movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, Michael Shannon, and Aaron Taylor Johnson in it. And it's like, I watched it pretty much because of the cast.
It's a good cast.
The cast is all fucking awesome. And that was the first time that I kind of like realized how good he actually could be, because he was holding his own with like Jake Gyllenhaal and Michael Shannon, you know?
Right.
And I was like, holy fuck, he's actually good. He's also like, I think a villain in that movie, and I think that was the first time I had seen him actually be a bad guy, because usually he's, you know, I just think of him as like, you know, Kick-Ass, Quicksilver, shit like that. But yeah, he's really underrated, and I thought it was cool he got this opportunity to kind of like show like, dude's fucking talented.
Dude,
like,
when his name popped up in the at the early credits, I not the scrolling credits. What's the fade in and fade out? They have a name.
Oh God. Not sure.
Anyways, the initial credits, right, fading in. When his name fades in, I was like, huh, I didn't see that coming. I made that joke in the theater, and God damn it, I will make it again.
It's solid joke, so I can't blame you for it. I just gotta give you the floor. um, dude, Nicholas Holt in the scene when he first meets Orlok and he is acting his ass off as he's terrified. That is like the most authentic I have seen an actor be scared on screen in my entire life. Like when he's freaking out, but he's at the same time trying to like keep his composure, but he can't help but be freaked the fuck out. He's incredible in that scene.
I live, I die, I'm dead.
Isn't that weird that like fucking Hutter and this is Nux?
It's
like,
fucking Nux, dude.
It's Nux.
It's nuts that it's Nux. Yeah. No, he does incredible in this.
So good.
And he has to. He's carrying the first third of the movie. You know, like you've got him in town. You've got his big day at work. He's trying to basically make a partner or whatever. And then he goes off on his adventure. He gets his fucking horse stolen. He witnesses, he's not sure what he witnesses. There's a naked lady and what he thinks might be a murder. And then he goes off and runs into fucking Orlok. And it's just like, what is happening?
It's a bad day.
It's a bad time, man.
It's a bad time to be Hutter, dude. Even just removing yourself from the fucking crazy vampire situation. Is there anything more scary? And this is like in real life. You're in a foreign country or like a place where you don't speak the language and everyone is in on the joke and you're not. Like that scene when he is surrounded by the people in the village.
Yeah.
You know? That hits like such like a real fucking scary thing in real life where it's like you're the butt of the joke, but you're such an outsider you don't even know what's being said about you, but you just feel so fucking isolated. Like that's such a good moment where when he like wakes up and the village is all gone. There's like that whole segment is really cool in the movie where he's about to be going up to Orlok's castle, but the locals are, you know, like begging him not to, and he's like, I have to. It's, you know, like there's this, and he just kind of thinks they're crazy,
right?
Because who wouldn't?
It really reminds me of the pub, right, in American Werewolf in London.
Oh yeah. We talked about this and that too. Yeah, that same kind of element at work is always so that will always work on me because it's
a relatable feeling.
It's a relatable feeling, and like that's like
it might be more extreme in the movie, but it's a relatable feeling. It's something you can empathize with. That's why now it's not it's a different tone, and it's not played to the level that it is in this movie at all. So that's why I always love that subversion in Pacific Rim when she starts talking Chinese and then he does. He responds
that part's
to her.
awesome. I love that.
And she's just as shocked as the audience is.
That reminds me of like one of like the all-time best like Game of Thrones scenes was like, do you remember the Khaleesi thing to where the slaver guy is like shit talking her constantly, and it's not even like, I don't even think it's contained within one scene. Like with the way they would cut back and forth.
Episodes.
Yeah, it's like across a few episodes where you find out she's been able to understand him the entire time, and it's such a good reveal.
Yes.
That it reminds me. I am such a sucker for that type of trope when it comes to like the writing and everything, because she's been playing him the whole time. It's so fucking good.
You know another one that just popped in my head?
What's that?
It's cheesy, but 13th Warrior has that too.
Oh yeah.
He does. They keep making fun of him and stuff, and then it slowly converts to English because he's learning the language the more they talk. And
I love that.
And then
scene.
you get that scene. It's like, yeah, it looked like that one's mother, and they all laugh, and he's like, my mother was a pure woman, and they all just stop and stare at him.
Yeah, and it's like with that they get such like an instant,
and at least
like,
I know who my father was, you godless son of a pig. Like, it's just so good.
And they work so well too, because like just by default they can't help but respect that about him, you know, like it's inescapable. They will respect that you picked up on their fucking language, you know, like without being taught it.
And it's played so well because it shows how different he is, but like what he's also bringing, right? He's got a level of logic and intuitiveness that they don't have. But they have all the survival skills that he doesn't have. So yeah, it shows why they need him. It's a really good. It's done in a cheesy way because he just listens to them talk over time and gets it. But it's also a really good thing. I also love how in that movie the language slowly turns to English. Like you'll be getting what is it? Probably Norwegian or Swedish, and then every once in a while there's like an English word peppered in as the scene goes on, and it
Yeah,
gets more and more English as it's going.
it's always a cool kind of effect.
But yeah, that's all I can think of on things that have done that. But yeah, no, in this movie, it's especially terrifying because it's like he woke up and he's lucky that he has any of his belongings or that
Yeah, they took
his
his
throat wasn't cut, right?
exact. Yeah, they took his fucking
They took
horse.
everything.
They've taken everything. Everything is gone, and like it's just so fucking
Now,
quiet.
they're not actually villagers, right? They're Romani. They're gypsies, which is not a word you're supposed to say anymore.
Yeah. I think that. Yeah, I think that's what they are.
Yeah, because that's where usually, like I told you, I think I mentioned it on the show a while ago. I went through that. It's like called the Vampire Archives or something. I went through it in audiobook form because fuck, I'm not reading a book that large. Um, but it goes in like chronological order with a lot of like the classic vampire stories, and it's broken down in chapter not chapters but in segments where it's like this is the pre Bram Stoker era, this is the post Bram Stoker era, this is the Anne Rice era, like the way things evolved, the way vampire stories were written. And even in American Werewolf in London and stuff, it it always the legend. I think even in the original Wolfman, the legend always comes from the gypsies, right? The Romani people.
Mhm.
Um, Everything the characters learn usually come from them. It's a gypsy curse in the Wolfman, isn't it?
I think
In the
so.
original Wolfman. Um, but yeah. Anyways, I like how we went back to that, right? Like they know that's a trope that I always like too because I always liked the Romani people in movies and stuff. Like I love in Assassin's Creed, they're the ones that like hide you. Like the groups of people that you can
Mhm.
join up with and walk with, and the groups of people that are like in on you can give them gold and they'll like help you or secret you away is the Romani people. They're always like some of the coolest characters. Even in that second Sherlock Holmes movie, right? That's who they're
Oh
traveling
yeah.
with. They're
Mhm.
just some of the coolest characters always.
Man, speaking of some of the coolest characters, like let's talk about some fucking Willem Dafoe in this, who's
Dude.
essentially like their Van Helsing for this. Uh,
Dude.
the kind of like Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz for Willem Dafoe, and you can imagine where it goes from there, with Willem Dafoe being in the Eggers movie.
He's not in drag, but it would not have been out of place for this character, I
Man,
think. Especially in that scene when they burn the coffin and stuff. They burn the chapel.
man, I I I just love that pretty much after the Lighthouse happened, like no matter what movie and no matter what genre Eggers is making, he'll fucking write us a spot for Willem Dafoe because like he's gonna have his boy in the movie and it's gonna be amazing every time. Because we were even in the Northman, he was like one of the cooler like small bit parts in it. You remember him in
Yeah, and I
the
was actually
Northman?
about to reference that too, because first time we see the dude naked on the floor from behind, I was like, Willem Dafoe? Because then the
Right.
Northman, he's fucking buck ass nude in that whole thing, that whole scene.
I gotta find you after the recording. I'm gonna send you because you gotta watch the conversation that him and Eggers have. I'm searching my YouTube history real quick to see if I can so I can recommend the actual like specific title of it for people to be able to find it. Um,
But yeah,
let's
Willem Dafoe,
see.
as always, is one of the best people in the movie. I don't know if his character's cool or not, but it doesn't matter. Any character he plays is automatically one of the coolest characters in a movie.
Oh, here it is, real quick, so people can look it up. Okay, so it was from GQ 2 weeks ago, and the title of it is Willem Dafoe and Robert Eggers talk the fear of acting, exploring the darkness, and Nosferatu.
Is
So
GQ? No, it's Variety that does that series where actors interview actors, right?
I
Or
think
is it
so.
GQ that
Sounds
does
right.
it?
I think it's Variety, but
Okay.
I could be mistaken.
Because I was about to ask if that was from that segment, then I realized that might be Variety.
Just as a side note, while I'm talking about this though, I think you will similarly be shocked at how fucking chill Robert Eggers is because of the specificity and technique of his movies. To me, if there was ever going to be the like stereotypical director writer walking out with like the ascot and being the most insufferable human being on the
He's wearing
planet,
the scarf in June.
exactly, that would have been my like
Interview had to
expectation for
happen at a
him.
coffee shop.
But he is so fucking chill. I was shocked because I was expecting. I was expecting
He's not, he'd
that
be
by the ending.
insufferable.
I thought by the end of the video, I would want to like reach through the screen and murder him.
I no longer like his movies.
I was expecting to be a cursed shadow upon the land and then go after Robert Eggers, but he's so chill and lovable. And the way you can tell that like he's so ecstatic to get to hang out with Willem Dafoe and make movies with Willem Dafoe.
He probably grew
is,
up watching Willem Dafoe's career.
Absolutely, like they talk about it, like how much like he respects him, and like he talks about like the way he goes about writing for Willem Dafoe and stuff, and the types of characters he's been playing in his movies so far. And they talk about specifics with like some funny moments from like the filming of the lighthouse and stuff. Like you gotta watch this video. It's a great interview. I love them so much. It's amazing.
Willem Dafoe seems like an interesting person. Like he seems a little eccentric in real life. I watched him do, again, I think it's Variety that also does the autocomplete interview where they just type in Willem Dafoe and then in Google, and the Google autocomplete that comes up, they just screenshot it and then they just go down the list. That's the interview. Those are the questions. They just go down the list, whatever it autocompleted. He seems like, let's say, an interesting dude in that
what's cool about
interview.
What's cool about Willem Dafoe, though, is he is eccentric, but he's at the same time like one of the most like down to earth famous actors.
Yeah,
because from every story you hear, people like will stop him on the streets of like New York, if him just kind of like walking around. He's always willing to stop for like pictures and talk to people, like no matter like what's going on. Like he'll always like have a chat with fans, and he just seems like a really down to earth, like chill guy too. So I love that about him.
Yeah, one of the autocompletes is Willem Dafoe. Like, will Willem Dafoe play the Joker or something like that? And he looks dead in the camera and he just goes no, and he starts moving on to the next thing. And as he's peeling off the tape to read the next thing, he pauses, looks back at the camera, and he goes, "But that is interesting." And then he goes, "But no." And then he just peels off the next tape and does the next one.
I love it.
Like,
I love it.
It's like he stops for it. He has to stop and think about it for a moment after he's already answered. And then he stays with the same answer. But he's just like, that is interesting. Can we talk about Emma Corrin? Corrine?
Were you able to? Okay, when you were watching the movie, were you able to figure out where you saw Emma Corrin?
I knew her.
It was driving me crazy.
I cannot believe who she is.
It's Cassandra Nova from Deadpool 3.
Nova.
It's Cassandra fucking Nova.
Holy shit, dude.
Crazy.
There's an Enya box set? Yeah. It's fucking Cassandra Nova. I cannot believe that is her.
They are so unrecognizable without the Cassandra Nova like get up to me, because that was like the first thing I saw them in.
You mean with hair?
Yeah, with Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova is something else, and then like you see them with hair and with this whole 1800s get up, and it is I was frothing at the mouth trying to figure out what the fuck I had seen them in, and yeah, it was fucking Cassandra Nova, dude. Crazy.
Could not believe that when I looked her up and saw that. My head exploded. I'm interested in following her career, because after those two, the first thing I ever saw her was Deadpool and Wolverine, and then after seeing this,
I think they have they them pronouns.
Oh,
by the
do
way.
they? Okay.
Yeah, for Emma.
Whoops.
Honest mistake.
But after seeing them in these two movies, which could not have been more different with the character they were playing,
right?
I'm all about following their career.
Yeah, incredible. That scene when she has just been like bitten by the rats.
Oh, dude.
It almost makes me think of like, what if you had flipped Emma Corrin and Lily Rose Depp? I almost think that like the way that, because like the thing with like Lily Rose Depp in the movie is she's doing like what she's asked to do and she's good, but I think the kind of like subtleties that Emma Corrin could have pulled off almost would have like worked for the character better if you had just flipped them.
Yeah.
Because that scene when she is acting out of it after she's been, like bitten by the rats and everything, if you just had that kind of like level and like it not being like cranked to 11, I almost wonder if it would have made the first third of the movie like work a little bit better, to where there's more like kind of like subtlety to it instead of just she's fucking nuts. If does that make sense?
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that probably working better. What's interesting was I was doing some quick Googling to verify that I fucked up the pronouns. There is an image of them for the cover of Bazaar on an ABC News thing. Copy image. I'm going to dump this in here. If they ever need a replacement for Ellen Ripley, do you not see Ellen Ripley in this image with the short hair?
Yeah, that'd be a good call.
If they needed to replace Ellen Ripley in an Alien movie, put it between Alien and Aliens, or in that time period where we can't get Sigourney Weaver back.
Yeah, hell yeah, I could see that for sure.
They would be fucking great, I think.
Yeah, I've only seen them in Deadpool 3 and this, but
Yeah.
I'm really impressed. Because it's interesting too, because like we talked about like the subtleties in this, and she is like portraying the opposite spectrum of that, as far as like her Cassandra Nova, like their Cassandra Nova, like is kind of like batshit, but also reserved at the same time at different scenes. Like
one of my
like,
favorite kind of
dictating.
crazy for a villain.
Yeah, for sure. So I was really impressed.
Yeah,
it just drove me fucking crazy. I couldn't figure out what I'd seen them in. My goodness.
Between Emma Corrin and goddamn Aaron Taylor Johnson
and Pietro, they recasted.
I
Pietro.
was so distracted the whole movie. Like, who the fuck are these people? And they're married to each other in the movie, and I don't know who they are, and it's killing me. Ugh.
We talked earlier about Bloodborne. Have you seen a more Bloodborne performance than Simon McBurney as Knock in this? Because this guy is a fucking this dude is
Mikolash.
This dude is the embodiment of a fucking FromSoft NPC. Like, this guy pretty much ends every scene with the maniacal cackling laugh.
Yeah.
But he's never like he's always
There's only human to commit a sin.
This guy is chewing the scenery the likes like Nicolas Cage hasn't reached. Bad, but I like his performance. Like, he's just fucking nuts. That's again the thing I hate the most about that fucking 70s version. And when you watch it, their stand-in for I think he's literally Renfield in that version because it's the Dracula name,
right?
But their stand-in for this character, I wanted to strangle him. He is so fucking irritating. You know how like Knock is like playing it up, like he's like chewing the scenery like a FromSoft NPC, and it's like, this is a crazy person in an Eggers movie.
Yeah.
The dude in the 70s one is just flat out fucking annoying. Good God. Single-handedly like ruins the movie for me. So yeah, go watch that. Go watch that.
I cannot wait.
Dude, you gotta. I almost want to watch it with you to see your reactions to shit.
Oh, God.
Maybe don't watch it. Maybe don't watch it yet. I'll watch it with you with like a six. We'll do a commentary with like a 6-pack, and we'll just watch the Nosferatu, not Dracula the vampire, whatever the fuck.
Not Feratu, not Feratu.
Fosferatu.
Dude, that's a good online handle. Not Feratu.
Yeah. Or yeah, Fosferatu. That's also a good one. Man, yeah. So we kind of like rounded. Oh, we talked earlier about Ralph Ineson, who's great in this. Almost wish he's in the movie a lot, but I almost wish they had like more for him to do. But pretty much like he's doing like what the movie script is like, kind of like calling for him to do, because like the real craziness is like they're just waiting for Willem Dafoe because he's his eccentric old professor, pretty much. But I like Ralph Ineson in this too, because like he's one of the interviews I actually saw with Skarsgård was funny, because he was talking, like Ralph Ineson has like the deepest voice of all time, and he was like, he was talking about like, why was I fucking casted in Nosferatu to have to do all this shit when he could have just talked? It's really good. Love that. Because like Ralph Ineson has like the coolest voice of all time.
That voice is why I say Papa G, right? Make him Gascoigne, man.
Man. You just
goats all over the shop.
Man, please just, even if it's like a 5-minute like fan film, just give me an Eggers Bloodborne thing, please. That's what I want for next. That's what I want for next Christmas.
It's so weird that Innocent is in Guardians of the Galaxy for like one scene, and like,
who was he in Guardians?
He's the. Do you remember when Drax is on the roof of the ship and Rocket shoots the ship 3 times to knock on the hull? It's like a low-powered shot that doesn't damage anything.
I think so.
He's the one that points out that they fired, but there was no damage done. That's it. He's the guy piloting the Reaver ship.
Yeah, he was like such a small character in it. I think they didn't they recast him for Fantastic Four? Oh yeah, he's Galactus. Yeah.
In what?
In the new Fantastic Four movie, he's Galactus.
The one coming out?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah, the cast of the new Fantastic Four. Then just remember, when you need to take down Galactus, all you need is Black Phillip. You just got to get the crazy goat, and then it's over.
You realize if we're getting another Fantastic Four and we're bringing in Galactus, that means we're getting Silver Surfer again at some point.
Yeah, they'll probably. I bet they'll do that for the second movie. But yeah, he's Galactus. They could not have picked a better guy, because like he by himself sounds like an interdimensional god.
Right.
And then if you add any kind of like voice effect to him at all, it's gonna be amazing.
Ralph Ineson is probably just like, can I play a normal guy for once? And Edgar's like, all right, you can be the Doctor. But he's like a, I don't know, 6'5" booming Nosferatu voice doctor. And it's like
his reaction when Knock kills the bird.
Yeah,
is just like, why'd you go and do that,
Why'd
man?
you go and do that?
I love it.
Oh man.
I think we've kind of like touched on like some scenes here and there, and you know what, like, because like to me, like the selling point of the movie is the cinematography, and like some of the performances are just like so fucking cool. So what were some other like kind of like standout like moments or like criticisms you have, just kind of like touch the movie as a whole? Because I feel we've kind of like pretty just about rounded the bases on like what's special about the movie to me.
So so I'm gonna start with the one criticism I have. It does a lot of flashing disturbing images at you really fast with a sound drop to jump scare you, which is unnecessary. It does it throughout the entire movie here and there during her possession scenes.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna flash the images, fine, but like give me the shriek one time, you know, like the shriek every time was kind of a bit much.
I almost wonder if like that was also kind of like calling back to the way silent films would work, you know? There's a lot of like nuance to it, as far as like, because you and I aren't as like well versed in silent film.
Right.
Some of this stuff that could come across as like a weakness of it could be him like paying tribute to it, because I would imagine with the way the orchestral stuff was integrated into silent films, like that would be, I also haven't seen the entirety of the 1922 one, so some of that could be explained away by that. But yeah, I agree, because like sometimes you gotta kind of like push aside like homage and just make it work the way the movie needs to function in 2024, you know?
Yeah, I don't know, even sometimes like listening to directors and writers and stuff talk and listening to actors talk, sometimes it even just comes down to like the studio was like, no, it needs to be scary, right? Like it's a vampire, it needs to be scary. Like there needs to be like a certain amount of jump scares because that's mandated
Oh man,
by
yeah.
producers.
Sometimes it's even. I think I remember C. Robert Cargill talking about in one of his podcasts about how horror is so formulaic as far as like what they want when they are picking scripts to to put into production.
Mm-hmm.
It's even like you can't go X amount of pages without a jump scare.
Yeah.
In certain like studios.
Like it even maybe felt like that a little bit, but I mean, I'm picking nits here, man. This is basically a perfect movie.
Ron has just shared the Crossroads. That's that's gotta be one of my new like desktop backgrounds. Like give me like a 4K res of that. Like that. It's so good. And it's such like a subtle that's one thing too that's excellent. There's another scene later. I think the very first time they show Orlok, the way the characters are framed in the background is always super neat and like evocative. They have like a lot of and it's like they're usually to like one extreme to where like the person is filling up like the entire frame, or they're very very like minimal in the background, like the way that they kind of like have Hutter here in the Crossroads scene kind of like framed in the kind of like lower 1/3 where he's framed against the backdrop of the kind of like the one like bit of light that's emanating. Like the one with Orlok, he's also outlined. There's like a lot of like, and again, it all plays into like the shadows. Like that he's homaging from the original movie. So it's like the cinematography of it all is amazing. Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things too where it's like, if I ever sounded like I was disappointed in this, it was just because I think this movie is incredibly well done. It has some incredible performances, but it doesn't have that like that really specific like raw originality that like The Lighthouse and The Witch do. To where this isn't like an all-time classic for me, but I do think it's fucking excellent. It's like that's why I said it was the Dark Souls 2 of the Eggers collection, because it's only it only ever pales in comparison, not like in its own right. Yeah. Would you want to like explain like the other shot that you shared?
It is, again, this is sound more damning than I mean for it to sound, because I actually really like this shot. It's also one of the most Bloodborne things I've ever seen. But it is like the almost stereotypical, obligatory in every vampire movie, them heading towards the castle, with the castle in the background and the people in the foreground. But it's done this same way as the Crossroads shot, with the light coming down and the snow, and it's color, it's color, but it's also black and white looking at it because the way the lighting is used. Like it's very reminiscent of that Crossroads shot to me, but there's a lot more going on, proving that whatever they're doing in these shots is a technique that works, right? And it works more than once. Because this is in the middle of town. Yeah, I don't know.
Just real quick. I wanted to give credit to Jaron Blaschke is the DP who's credited for the cinematography for this, because like he just incredible visuals, like pretty much from dude, that opening shot when Nosferatu is only illuminated when the curtains flicker out to where they extend far enough to show you the outline of him.
Yeah,
is such a cool shot. Such a cool fucking shot.
Yeah.
To no one's surprise, this was the director of photography on both The Northman and The Lighthouse.
Yep. That makes sense.
He was also his cinematographer for The Witch. So he's been the DP for every Eggers movie so far.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's making vampires scary again. I'm all about it. Everything to do with Orlok was incredible. Like the feeling,
just thinking
voice.
Back to that, just thinking back to the sound effect, like you said, of like the way he bites is like, it'll
God.
Like, dude, it's you like it activates.
He reminds me, the position he gets in reminds me of like the flea men, like in Bloodborne. The way they're all hunched over like that, just lapping up the blood on the ground. Ugh.
Yeah, it's like
Ugh. But my son sounds
it's
like drinking Sprite. I shit you not.
it's fucking hard to watch. Like the way he it makes more sense too, because like he always goes and like bites them near their heart. You
Yeah.
know, that's another thing too. Is like usually like the whole vampire thing is like biting them on the neck, but like he latches on and he's like pretty much like distending his jaw like a creature would, like almost like a
Yeah.
snake. Because when you see the way that the bites are left on their chest, dude, isn't that fucking Defoe poster
Dude,
sick as
that
hell?
Defoe poster, that's Defoe telling me I can use the doll if it pleases me. Like, my God.
If nothing else, this is the single most Bloodborne movie we're ever gonna get, and it has to be
Okay.
treasured as a piece of art.
Okay. I just thought of something. If we're going to be fan casting Bloodborne, Emma Corrin, Lady Maria,
Oh yeah, I could see that.
a corpse should be left well alone. Come on.
She even has the kind of like features
Yeah.
to kind of like match the kind of this like the strangeness of her character model in the game, you know? Like
And you'd be
where
seeing them early on because they'd be the doll too, and then they'd show up again as Lady Maria.
man, so good.
Oh, dude. Anyways, yeah, this movie, the
It's something
sound
else.
design with everything around Nosferatu and the way he's shot. Now, the intention is homage to the black and white silent film with the way he's kind of obscured in shadow and the way his eyes kind of shine and reflect the moonlight and stuff. But what it reminded me of is like I was talking about with the Black Goat Motorcycle Club, he seems to be emanating darkness. He seems to be oozing darkness with the way he's shot. And that was all I could think of during the movie. I know the artist intent and the way it was set up, but my mind was going to that book with the descriptions of Dracula. It was, I don't know, it's just everything to do with Orlok is really, really cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Also super cool for Skarsgård to now be both Nosferatu and Pennywise. And you look at them side by side, and you would never in a million years suspect they're played by the same dude. Like that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it also I was not aware that even in the original film Nosferatu brings the plague to Germany.
Mm-hmm.
That has to be the inspiration for. Did you ever play Vampire on PlayStation 4 / PlayStation 5?
I did not. I remember you streaming it, so I watched you on Twitch play it a bit, but I never played it myself.
The strength of that game is not the combat, even though I'm one of the few sickos that's kind of into the combat. Because it's a more tactical Bloodborne. A lot of people just said, "Oh, they tried to rip off Bloodborne and did it badly." No, Bloodborne, I can run in, just my dick hanging out, and walk away. You do that in this game, you die. Like you have to know what you're doing. So it's a little bit more tactical Bloodborne style combat. But the strength of that game is it is in talking to the characters and going through the decision tree, like talking to them and stuff, and how much people like you or hate you, and deciding which ones you're going to feed on and why. Because there are some people that you can cure by feeding on them, and some people that you can kill. Like there's this one guy that's very clearly a fucking murderer. When you're talking to him, and that affects things. But that movie is happening during the Spanish flu, I believe. I'm sorry, I think I said movie. That game is happening during the Spanish flu, and you're a doctor. So you're Dr. Acula walking around during the Spanish flu trying to solve what happened to you because you're a new vampire. You just got bitten. So you're trying to figure out who bit you and why. You're trying to figure out what it means to be a vampire, and you're trying to solve the Spanish flu. And you have patients that you have to tend to in the hospital and stuff. And sometimes the answer is, I'm just going to draw whatever's making them sick out of their blood into me because it's not going to affect me. I'm immune, and I can cure this person. It's really interesting, but I always thought it was really cool that it was set during the Spanish flu and you're a doctor and that whole angle. And then finding out that even in the silent film, the 1922 version, Nosferatu brings the Black Death to Germany. Like, that is clearly the inspiration for that in that game, and I had no idea.
Yeah, for being such like an iconic thing, and part of it was just like it being a silent film, and I just don't. Not necessarily anything like I have against them. I just haven't sought many of them out. But I was not even aware that it was, originally a Dracula, quote unquote adaptation. That
It was
sanctioned.
Kmart Dracula.
Yeah, we have Dracula at home. But yeah, I like the element of the plague and stuff too, because like he is like. There's almost like elements of like Imhotep to him, like with like the curses and the plagues and shit.
Yeah, bringing the plague with him.
It's like a combination between Imhotep and Dracula.
I wonder if Stephen Sommers pulled that from Nosferatu or another vampire story that we're not aware of when he wrote The Mummy,
or if any of the original Mummy shit, had already done that too. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Yeah, because he brings with him the 10 plagues of Egypt. The way that they know he's in Cairo, remember, they all take a shot of booze and then immediately spit it out because it turned to blood as they were drinking it. And
now you're making me want to watch The Mummy.
I know.
Again,
And Brendan Fraser's just like, he's here. It's so cool. I went through 3 Indiana Jones movies, and when I was done, I was like, I want to watch The Mummy now. So I've already been watching Nosferatu. Did not help that, by the way. Going to see Nosferatu and seeing a trailer for The Wolfman, knowing I have The Mummy at home after watching Indiana Jones, I was like, God damn it, I'm going to watch The Mummy sometime soon. I have all the Universal monsters staring at me. And then I just finished Indiana Jones, which fucking Brendan Fraser, his character's pulled right out of those type of serials.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the old serials, like, absolutely.
So, yeah.
Man. So why doesn't he like cats? Yeah.
And that movie, we made a list of things that we hate that Hollywood does over and over again. Guy gets his tongue ripped out and he can still talk and make noise. He just can't do it well.
Yep.
Yeah, his tongue ripped out. How would you feel?
Man, they just
Americans.
I love that movie. So I need to watch. I watched the first one a few months back, but I meant to watch the second one, but I need to watch the second one again.
The second one takes so much shit, and it's not as good as the first movie, but I like it quite a bit.
I still like the second one a lot. The like double decker bus chase is super fun at the beginning.
The fact that they don't retread the first movie, Imhotep's whole again within like 10 minutes of being resurrected.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah, it's great.
It's fun.
Looks to me like I have all the horses.
Looks to me like you're on the wrong side of the river.
Think of my children. You don't have children. I might someday.
I have seen that movie so many fucking times. I can basically quote it in real time as it's happening in the exact same inflection as the actors. It's a problem.
When I was watching Kingdom of the Crystal Skull and watching the dude run around shoving gold into his jacket as the UFO's taking off and is going to kill him, I was like, it's fucking Benny from the end of The Mummy.
Yeah, that totally is Benny.
Loading up all the camels.
Goodbye, Benny.
Goodbye, Benny.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be. I'm so excited for the. So here's what I'm hoping for the next Eggers thing is, as much as I love Nosferatu, I need a weird as fuck Eggers original next now.
Mm-hmm.
To where I need something to where, like, when I sat down to watch The Lighthouse, I didn't know what the fuck I was getting into.
Right.
And that's I love Nosferatu. Obviously, Eggers can direct whatever he wants. But what I most want next is another original, what the fuck is happening, Eggers original. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for next. So
does he not have anything in the works at the moment? I'm not seeing anything on IMDb that's in production or announced or anything.
Yeah, his they had announced that he was working on Nosferatu like really far in advance. So He said, I think in the Willem Dafoe interview that like he is working on stuff. It's just nothing I think is like officially his next project that's on the way. So there's different things in the works. Just looking back on his IMDb though, when you open up your career with The Witch, The Lighthouse, The Northman, and Nosferatu, like that's crazy. Just for The Witch and The Lighthouse alone being your first two movies, this is like what a crazy like way to open your career.
And what The Northman did with fucking Nicole Kidman.
Oh yeah.
I was just like, oh god, I am equal parts terrified of you and hate you. And it's Nicole Kidman. Yeah.
He has to. Okay, The Northman, real quick. The Northman has a fucking Dark Souls mini boss. And Nosferatu has the Bloodborne carriage. He's a FromSoft guy.
He's gotta be, right?
He's gotta be, without a fucking doubt.
Dude, I just realized The Northman reunited Ethan Hawke and Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that from Daybreakers. Yeah. We got to get Daybreakers on here soon, so I have an excuse to watch it again. Because we talked about it earlier, but good fucking movie. I will do some of our sign-offs real quick. And then Ron will announce what we're going to be covering next time, though. I'm assuming you didn't have any other final thoughts?
No, that pretty much covers it. Good movie's good. Go watch.
Yeah, for sure. Watch it in the theater if possible, if you are interested in it, because you will get the extra emphasis from the sound effects, specifically of the Orlok voice.
Yes.
Because, we didn't talk about it. The scene when he dies... sound
there's
mixing,
a reason we didn't talk about it.
the scene when he dies, there is a bit of sound mixing as he's screaming as he's dying. The first of all, the effect of the blood coming out of his eyes and his mouth is cool as fuck, and one of the most metal things I've ever seen. But dude, they literally have a bit of the sound mixing that makes your fucking skin crawl, dude.
Yeah.
It is amazing. Like they have like the perfect frequency going or something where like it makes like your hair stand on end. It's so good. It's such a fucking good effect. So like go watch it in the theater, please, if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask you a question when we get out of here. I don't want to ask it on mic. But that ending scene, I literally turned to Jeff when credits hit screen and was like, we finally have something more disturbing than the mermaid poon.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah. For that to be the final shot too. Is
come on.
Fucking nuts.
So the thing that I know about the original is the sunlight hits him and poof, he just turns into dust. I was waiting for what's gonna happen.
Because
boy,
because you
was I not disappointed?
Yeah, you're not. You knew something crazy was gonna fucking happen, and it did.
One thought that I had mentally written down, and then I could hear color and see sound. So one thing that I've often heard, Dracula and vampires in general described as is stand-ins for addiction and rape at the same time. Mm-hmm. And you definitely see that in like Bram Stoker's Dracula. What's interesting about Nosferatu, the Eggers version, the Eggers cut of Nosferatu, is he falls in line with more the way I usually hear a werewolf described, with like destructive behavior that affects like friends and family around you, and eventually like can even get yourself killed through your destructive behavior. Because at that ending scene, he's watching the sun come up and he's continuing what he's doing. And like you said, he can't help himself.
Yeah, and he's also so transfixed by Ellen, and specifically,
and he can never get enough.
She's like a drug to him.
Yeah, like there's a lot of vampire media where they can go a couple of days without feeding, even, and it's like him, he can never get enough. Like I said, it was like Pirates of the Caribbean where they're always starving, they're always dying of thirst, but food turns to ash in their mouth and water does nothing. And
Yeah.
he can never satisfy the thirst no matter how much blood he drinks. So he just continues on almost like an addict, like it's never enough. And it's interesting how he fits almost more of a werewolf profile than a Dr. Acula profile.
I think there's an interesting like thing to think about too with just the way that he dies specifically. It's not necessarily, when you think about it, the sunlight part that is what's killing him. It's that the prophecy like is fulfilled.
Yeah.
Specifically, it's like they have to wait until they hear like the first like roosters crow. You know, it's all part of like it's like ritualistic. It's like he is killed when like the sunlight happens, but like the sunlight has hit him and he doesn't initially have like the reaction to it. You know, it takes a little bit of time.
They specifically say several times from the book, the first crow of the cock.
Yeah.
So it's when you hear the rooster that he dies.
Yeah, it's all there's like the prophecy of it is what kills him, not necessarily like the sunlight itself. It's just the prophecy happens to coincide with like sunlight being around because it's in the morning, but it's specifically him like not going back to his to being out and about and not being in his coffin, not specifically the sunlight angle of it. Like I think people can be kind of like misconstrued, and I think it's intentionally because he's like Nosferatu isn't a traditional vampire. Nosferatu is different because he's like a hodgepodge of like several things. It's not just like, oh, the sunlight killed him. You know, he's not like that traditional of a like stereotypical vampire. So I like that element to it too, where you know it's just like you don't really know what the fuck he is by the end of the movie. You know, like they know this, like
he's closer to a demon than he is vampire almost.
Yeah, he's like a demon and a vampire and a werewolf and like all this shit like at the same time, and at the same time none of them.
Yeah,
you know, it's a cool hodgepodge that isn't lazy. It's interesting in how like he's like an unfinished description, you know, of like what exactly his creature is, and it's almost like he doesn't even fucking know, and if he did, he doesn't think they're worthy of even being like told.
Yeah,
you know, it's cool. I like Nosferatu, even though he's a complete unsanctioned adaptation and a ripoff of Dracula. I like the idea of Nosferatu better than Dracula personally. He
also fits your description of a story you wrote about Santa Claus coming to visit a house.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, he also fits your description of a vampire, and that pretty good.
I'd completely forgotten that I technically have written the vampire.
You wrote a Nosferatu, my friend.
I wrote a Nosferatu. I watched Nosferatu on Christmas Day, Ron. That's creepy.
I didn't even think about that.
I hadn't thought about that.
Oh, that's pretty good.
That's crazy. Where's my residuals, Eggers? How'd you find that? Releasing that shit on Christmas.
Man.
But yeah, if you would like to follow the show more.
Is it a Christmas movie? There's Christmas trees in the background.
I think at one point they talk about is it with Aaron Taylor Johnson and his wife? They're talking about like something with Christmas.
Yeah.
At some point somebody mentioned something about Christmas. I don't remember who or like what it was about.
I mean, I'm joking. I think Christmas is used in this movie the way it's used in Harry Potter to show time passing.
True.
But yeah, because the dude travels to another country on horseback, so he's gone for like months at a time. That's why this is such a big deal.
Yeah. It's like a 1 week, a 1 way like 6 week journey, and that was considering it being on horseback. And for the last like juncture, he's on foot.
Yeah,
and then he has to be kind of like, you know, brought back to life essentially because he's so close to dying, and so he's there with the those people for a long time. So yeah, he's gone for what you say like 4 months probably.
Something like
it's
that,
been It's like a fucking minute.
It's used to like the Christmas trees and stuff come and go, but so it's used to show the passage of time. But I was thinking about that. I was like, is this a Christmas movie? It was released on Christmas. We got Christmas trees.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, why not? Make it a tradition. Gather the family around.
Gather the family. It's a joyous time for all.
It's Providence.
It's Providence.
It's Providence.
Man, what a fucking movie. It's a fucking trip. That's what it is. It's a fucking trip. If you would like to follow the show more, we are on Twitter where you can follow us for show updates. It's at SPR Filmcast. Any ratings or reviews on whichever platform you happen to catch us on always helps us out. If you found us on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe for further content. Sure, if you have a buddy who's into horror movies, maybe like share us out to him. That's been a running thing. I think now that we've covered every Eggers movie, so you can go back and find those on the channel. I think we covered The Lighthouse first.
I think so.
Yeah, I think that was the first one we covered. I think we've covered all of his stuff now, and we'll continue to, because like that, it's no matter what it is, it's day one watch for me, and I cherish those types of like be it video games or movies, like where you're counting the days until the thing comes out because you're just so excited that's like what like he probably is my favorite director right now is Eggers, I'd say. So I'm so excited to see what he does next. Ron, what are we covering next time?
I don't know.
You don't know?
So I found a movie in my watch list. I don't know this movie. It's in my to cover on the podcast list. I don't know this movie. It's described as supernatural. It's got a decent cast. It's from 2002. It's a submarine movie. And it is called Below.
That is the Bruce Greenwood movie I was talking to you about over the last few episodes when we were covering like Crimson Tide.
Is it?
I think specifically. Yeah, I was kind of like trying to sell you on this one because it's good.
Okay, so you're the reason, because I was like, I don't know this movie. So a podcast or something talked about it, and I added it to the list.
Yeah, I think it was because we were talking about just kind of like submarine movies in general, and then I think at one point it actually might have come up first when we were being talked to by Bobby in the comments about like what would you like to see more of, and I think we talked about kind of like ghost story submarine stuff, and that's like a bit of like what like Below is, I think.
Okay.
So yeah, there you have it.
Yeah, let's see. 600 feet beneath the surface, terror runs deep.
Yep. I saw it. It's been a long time, so other than remembering Bruce Greenwood being in it and me liking it, I don't remember much about it. So
yeah, I know nothing about this movie. I didn't even know why it was in my list, but the other thing I had picked is suddenly off of my streaming services, and I'm pinching pennies a little bit right now. So
gotcha.
I was like, well, what is in my streaming services that's in this list? And I was like, the fuck is this movie?
Yeah, like you'd forgotten about it. What service is Below on?
Oh, sorry. Below is rentable at all the usual places, right? Amazon, Apple TV, Fandango at home. It is streaming on Paramount Plus.
Okay.
Which I have, because that's where I watch Colbert.
This is like the one thing you watch on it.
Actually, it's got all the Nickelodeon stuff, and Nickelodeon has the rights to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They
go.
Have TMNT 87 is it's called.
I always forget that Nickelodeon owns the Turtles. Like, it's one of those like ownership things that like, and like branding that just doesn't like stay in my brain for some reason. I don't know why.
I don't know why, but the original 3 movies are not in there, but all the animated stuff is in there, and the Michael Bay produced atrocities are in there. But yeah, it's called TMNT 87 now. It's the one that I grew up with, the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I've been going through it with the kids slowly but surely.
Do they like the Turtles?
They do.
Good.
They do. Also, I watched Mutant Mayhem recently. You should check that out. They make a change that I don't want to talk about until you watch it that I don't like, but everything else about that movie I like.
That had been on my short list to pick for the podcast eventually, so I'd probably just pick it. Give me an excuse to watch it at some point.
Yeah, it's good. Jackie Chan is Master Splinter.
I heard it was really fucking solid, and the cast was good from what I remember. So obviously I'll eventually watch the Turtles thing because I love the Turtles.
I've been really itching to rewatch TMNT. It's an animated direct sequel to Turtles 2: Secret of the Ooze, and I really like that movie. And
I like that one a lot.
Me and my mom
was that like the like 2007ish?
Yeah,
one?
yeah. Me, and my mom are the only 3 people on this planet that have watched it. Like, it is such a good movie. My mom likes the Turtles too. She used to watch them with me when I was a kid, and if I was like homesick, that's what we watched all day. So when that movie came out, she was like, "I want to see that," and I was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yes." So we went and watched it.
I love how the Turtles is one of those things where it's just universal.
Yeah,
like people of all ages, can just
what's
love it.
What's funny is in real life there'd be these like horrific monstrosities that you would run away from screaming, and my mom is like, "They're cute."
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So there's all kinds of people out there.
Yeah. You got like Splinter would look like he brought the plague in Nosferatu. But he's fucking Splinter and he's awesome.
Right?
Yeah.
And then also that TMNT movie from 2007 or whatever that we're talking about, like they basically make Splinter Yoda from episode 1 in that. Like he starts hopping around and just taking people out left and right. So good.
Yep. All right, man. Yeah, so we'll be checking out. I like how you'd completely forgotten where you had heard about Below.
Totally forgot.
By the way. Very funny.
I was like, the fuck is this movie? The poster's cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Dude, it's Bruce Greenwood.
I'm always down for Bruce Greenwood.
Exactly. The dude's amazing.
His Batman's good too.
Oh, like he's one of my absolute favorites. I wish they used him more because he's so good.
Jason O'Mara does pretty good. That's the one that they use mostly now. But when they were using Bruce Greenwood in the animated stuff, anytime they did not go to our boy, Bruce Greenwood was a good second choice.
Yeah, I think what was it? Under the Red Hood? Was that the one of the movies that he did? Yeah, I like that. I
really like that movie, and he's a really good Batman in that.
Absolutely, love that dude. All right, yeah, be sure to check out Below over the next couple weeks, and that way you can follow along with us in the next episode. So thanks for listening, and have a good night, everybody.